she ended up just one day looking up my schedule and came into work while I was there and was like, hey, you want to get lunch? And she's like, do you eat? And I was like, yeah, I eat. Sure. And she was like, oh, okay, I didn't plan for that. Okay, sure. So we went out to eat, and it kind of went from there. We just started hanging out, and then found out I got accepted to a university in Jacksonville, Florida. And 2 months into dating, I told her, I was like, hey, you know, you can move with me, and we can get a 2-bedroom and see how this goes, or we can call it a missed opportunity. And so 2 months into dating, we move up to Jacksonville.
Love it.
And it all worked out. We stayed together in Jacksonville till I graduated and got engaged, started thinking about marriage, told her I wasn't going to marry her until I graduated, because if I couldn't bring something to the relationship, I was like, no, I need to do me first, and then we can do us. And so after I graduated, she was like, I want to join the military. So we got married as planned, and then she went off to basic. It wasn't a surprise. She had wanted to join the Marines earlier on, and her parents had said no. And it kind of came down to the point where she was like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, because she'd always kind of wanted to join the military. That kind of was what she wanted to do with her life. But thinking that they wouldn't approve of it, she just never followed through. And I was kind of like, you know, why don't you just ignore what they say? You're an adult, you're older now, just follow what you want. I can support you, and if you end up not liking it, then we'll figure something else out. She went away for basic for, I guess, it was about 3 months, and then she went away for her first phase of AIT, which was another 3 months. She got a few days to come home, and I had packed up. We literally moved from our apartment in one area of town to a different apartment, and then a year later moved from that apartment, which I packed up by myself, put it all in the moving truck.
The single PCS, I feel you on that one.
Attached to I've never driven anything bigger than a sedan, literally. And so I've got this giant moving truck with a trailer and an SUV on the back, and I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to make this in the middle of a hurricane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's resiliency at its finest right there, girl. I love it.
Oh, yeah, it was literally the hurricane was like following me, and I'm just like, just keep going. I'll make it. So moved after her 6 months, you know, she did her 6 months. She was going to Fort Bliss for her, she had 9 months of her second phase AIT. So I moved us up there, and she did that, and I just kept transferring my target job, and so that way I wasn't going to be unemployed.
I love it.
And then after she finished there, packed us up, I came down here a month early, lived in an empty apartment that we got online without seeing it, because I had to get a Louisiana driver's license to apply for my job. Couldn't get that unless I had a residence. So came down here, slept on an air mattress with literally nothing in the house, and got my job, went back, and got all of our moving truck. She still, to this day, won't drive a moving truck. So got the moving truck, drove it 24 hours. 1 day later, started the police academy, and there we were. So after that, once I graduated the police academy, which was a few months later, we broke our lease and moved on post.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Pretty much I always wanted to be a police officer. Since I was 15, decided this is what I'm going to do. You know, got my degree for it and was ready to go. I waited to apply for any jobs until we got settled somewhere, which happened to be here. It is the first place that I've ever worked as a police officer. And I can honestly say the only thing that's concerning is that when you do move from state to state, sometimes their requirements are different. Mm-hmm. So I love having my job, and on the same side, I'm like, okay, let's make this last as long as possible, because, you know, the whole hiring process is, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. There's so many things that you have to go through. But it was also a learning curve for us. For her to tone down her, you know, military, and me to tone down my police, so we could come to each other as,
meet in the middle.
yeah, as people who, you know, just love each other, and not necessarily with our jobs coloring the way that we come at each other, you know. When we got here, it was like, okay, we have to learn how to you know, like sit down and talk to each other again, and like get to know each other, because we've just been going so much, we kind of have been forgetting to do that.
Yeah.
But we went to one of the counselors here, and it actually was super helpful.
How do you feel about the impending deployment news?
I actually really support her, because before we even, you know, like when we were discussing her joining, you know, we talked about it a lot and decided, really like thought on, you know, what would our relationship be like with one of us, you know, with us being separated for that period of time. So when she joined, I went into it with the mindset knowing that I could be okay with that. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, obviously, you know, even like when she left for 3 months to go do, to help out somewhere in Kentucky, and even that was hard. But at the same time, it's like I know that it's part of it, and I luckily was very mentally prepared for that.
That's good. That's good.
So I don't dread it or anything, and I know she really wants it. So I support her in that, because I know she's really, really excited. We came from a pretty big city, and like here, and even in Fort Bliss and El Paso, when you just go out and you're just being yourself and holding hands, sometimes people have that, oh, there's a circus walking by reaction, you know, and so it's kind of just, you know, like I would have probably mentally prepared myself to that we may end up in places that are not, they have the people who don't see that, and just, you know, don't let it bother you. I kind of think about it like this, is people are never going to get used to it if they don't see it, but the way I look at it is we're just like everybody else, and you know, and we're happy, and we want to do those cutesy things and hold hands too, and it's not to shove it in anybody's face or anything, it's just,
you're in love.
Yeah. I don't take on her shadow as my identity. You know, I do the things that spouses are supposed to do.
You drive the moving truck, girl.
Yes, I drive the moving truck. I move when they say to move. I get the house ready for inspections, or, you know, all of those things that are kind of like in a sense expected. But at the same time, I always have expectations for myself, totally unrelated to her, that I put equal, if not more, effort into making sure that my goals happen, because I'm going to support her in her goals happening, but I have to support me in my goals happening too. So I guess it's just trying to remind myself that I am so much more, and just to keep working. So like even when we were coming here, I told her, I was like, if I don't get a job, I'm going to start getting my master's. Like that was my next step. You know, it was either I had A and B, and if A didn't work out, I had B planned, and if B didn't look like it was going to work out, I'm going to develop a C. You know, something is going to happen for me. I try and make sure that I'm always somebody that I can look up to, that I can be proud of. And then if others, you know, are proud to see it, then that's great. You know, especially with my job, like I'm always trying to show people that police are not what we think you know, that there are the good and that there are the bad, but I know I'm out there making sure that I'm putting a positive influence with people. So it's not necessarily that I'm trying to have people look up to me, just make sure that I can be proud of me.